Hello, welcome back to STR. Today we are having the third episode on the first chapter, Reproduction in Organisms. In our last class we had discussed about the different modes of reproduction, and we had seen that there are two types, asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction, and also we had seen the differences between these two. Today, in this episode, we'll be discussing in detail about the different asexual reproduction methods. There are 7 different types of asexual reproduction methods. The first one is fission. The second is budding. Third, zoospores. Fourth, conidia. Fifth, gemmules. Sixth, fragmentation. And 7, vegetative propagation. And we will be seeing one after another. See, fission. The first mode of asexual reproduction is fission. So what do you mean by fission? Fission means division. One organism divides into 2 and becomes 2 organisms. Or one organism divides into many and becomes many small organisms. So fission means division of the body. So fission can be of 2 types. Binary fission and multiple fission. Binary means into 2. Binary means into 2. Multiple means into many. So the first mode of asexual reproduction is fission. It can be of 2 types, binary fission and multiple fission. And binary fission can be seen in bacteria, amoeba, paramecium, euglena, etc. So bacteria, amoeba, paramecium, euglena, etc. are organisms having binary fission or examples for binary fission. So see, this is a bacteria. This bacteria, when it is fully grown, a constriction appears in the center. This constriction gradually becomes deep. This constriction becomes deep and they meet and divides into 2. So this is binary fission. This is an example for bacteria. In the case of amoeba, see, this is an amoeba. Here is the nucleus. The nucleus first elongates. And a constriction develops in the center. Finally, the nucleus divides into 2. And they move apart. Now what happens? A constriction develops in the center between these nucleus. A constriction develops and deepens in between the 2 nucleus, and finally these constrictions meet and it divides into 2. So again it is this binary fission. So binary fission means the organism divides into 2 and becomes 2 organisms. Example, bacteria, amoeba, paramecium, euglena, etc. show this type of reproduction. Now, what is multiple fission? Multiple fission can be seen in Plasmodium. And in amoeba also. So what is multiple fission? I had told you, the organism divides into many and becomes many amouns. See, this is an amoeba. Here is the nucleus. First the nucleus. So first happens, what happens? During unfavorable conditions, this type of multiple fission takes place during unfavorable conditions. The amoeba withdraws all the pseudopodia. What are pseudopodia? The small projections on the body called pseudopodia, and amoeba moves and capture prey with the help of this pseudopodia. So all the pseudopodia are withdrawn. So what happens? Amoeba becomes rounded off and secretes a covering around it. It secretes a covering around it. Now what happens? The nucleus divides into some fragments, and the cytoplasm becomes, or a bit of cytoplasm surrounds each nucleus. A bit of cytoplasm surrounds each nucleus. Now this organism or amoeba can withstand the unfavorable condition for months. Now when the favorable conditions return, this covering breaks and many of them, these young organisms come out. So there is multiple fission. Then the second is budding. What is budding? Budding means a small projection or a bud appears on the body. For example, this is Hydra. It's an organism, you know, Hydra. Say a small bud, a small projection, a bud appears on the body surface. The bud becomes large, and at the tip of the bud, the tentacles develop, and later on it cuts away from the parental body. It gets separated from the parental body, and this starts living independently. So that is budding. Here also, see, this is the yeast cell. This is the yeast cell. Yeast is a fungi. So a projection appears on the body or on this cell. This is the bud. This is the bud. Then the bud enlarges and it gets separated. It gets separated and it starts growing independently. So this type of budding, this type of reproduction is called budding. So budding example, Hydra, then yeast, etc. Then zoospores. What is zoospores? In chlamydomonas like organisms, chlamydomonas belongs to algae. So chlamydomonas like organisms, see, this is the picture of a chlamydomonas. This is a nucleus. It has plenty of chlorophyll. Since the organism has plenty of chlorophyll, this unicellular organism, chlamydomonas, looks green in color because of the presence of this immense amount of chlorophyll. See, you must have seen the green colored water in some ponds. The green color of the water is due to the presence of chlamydomonas in immense numbers. So if we take a drop of this water, this green colored water from the pond, and look it or examine it under the microscope, you can see thousands of this green colored organism called chlamydomonas. Then the chlamydomonas, what happens? This nucleus divides into many pieces, and each piece is surrounded by cytoplasm. So these are called the zoospores. Then what happens? This body covering or the external covering, external wall breaks and these engones come out. These are zoospores. These are zoospores. So zoospores are seen in chlamydomonas. Then conidia. What is conidia? This type of reproduction takes place or is seen in fungi. For example, see, this is the penicillium. Penicillium is a fungi. We know that in the first year we have seen the structure of the body of fungi. The body of fungi is made up of very small, slender, thread-like structures. And we call it as hyphae. Hypha, plural hyphae. So these are the hyphae. And the network of this hyphae is called mycelium. Mycelium. And from this, what happens? Small, slender structures grow upwards. And they are called the conidiophore. And at the tip of the conidiophore, we can draw this like this. See, this is the hyphae. In the hyphae, slender structures develop. At the tip of these slender structures, conidia develop. These are the conidia. So this is the hyphae. This is the structure on which the conidia develop. They are called conidiophore. And these are the conidia. Conidia. So conidia are formed on conidiophore exogenously. Exogenous means outside the body. So these are produced outside these hyphae or conidiophore. So the conidia are produced exogenously on conidiophore. Example, penicillium. Penicillium. Zoospores chlamydomonas. Budding hydra yeast. Okay. Then gemmules. Gemmules are buds formed inside the body. In the first year we had seen in zoology section phylum Porifera, in which the sponges are included. This is the structure of a sponge. It's a vessel-like organism. You know that. And inside this, spores are or buds are developed. These are the buds that develop inside the sponge. This is sponge. And this is gemmule. Gemmule formation. So gemmules are buds formed inside. That means buds formed endogenously. They are the gemmules. Example, sponges. Then fragmentation. What do you mean by fragmentation? See, suppose this is a stick. I can break it into 2-3 pieces and each one is a fragment. So fragment means small pieces of a particular thing. So suppose a garden plant. You cut a branch of it and break it into 2-3 pieces and you plant it. And each piece will grow into a new plant. So by fragmentation. So fragmentation also can be seen in plants. Then vegetative propagation. What is vegetative propagation? If we look at the body of a plant, the plant body can be divided into 2 major parts. Vegetative part and reproductive part. The flowers are the reproductive parts, we know, the sexual reproduction in plants. So the flowers are the reproductive parts. The other parts, which are the other parts, the roots, stem, leaves, etc. are the vegetative parts. So some of the vegetative parts of a plant help in reproduction. Such reproduction is called vegetative propagation. So what do you mean by vegetative propagation? Vegetative propagation is the mode of asexual reproduction with the help of the vegetative parts like root, stem, leaves, etc., or any other part other than the flowers. So, what are the different types of asexual reproduction? Fission, budding, zoospores, conidia, gemmules, fragmentation, and vegetative propagation are the different types of asexual reproduction. See, what is vegetative propagation? Once again, what is vegetative propagation? It is the propagation or reproduction with the help of a vegetative part of a plant like root, stem, or leaves, or we can say any part other than the flowers, which are sexual reproduction part. So, once again, what are the different types of asexual reproduction? Fission can be binary fission and multiple fission. Binary fission example, bacteria, amoeba, etc. Then multiple fission can be seen in plasmodium, amoeba, etc. And budding takes place in hydra and yeast, etc. Zoospores are seen in chlamydomonas, conidia are seen in penicillium, gemmules are seen in sponges, fragmentation, that is breaking of the plant body into pieces, and each piece will be, for example, spirogyra. Spirogyra is a very slender green thread-like algae seen in ponds, sea or in water bodies. And if we collect some of the spirogyra and break it into many pieces and throw it off, and each small piece will grow into the full spirogyra. That means fragmentation. The body is broken into many pieces and each piece will develop into a new organism. That is fragmentation. And of course, vegetative propagation. Once again, what are the different types of asexual types of reproduction? Fission, budding, zoospores, conidia, gemmules, fragmentation, and vegetative propagation. Dear students, we will see the vegetative propagation in detail in the next episode. Okay.